Vicente, I'd like to start with you. Epetrol has had a remarkable and important couple of years, seems to be building a real momentum. In 2024, Epetrol took over operatorship of Block B and the emblematic Zafiro field from ExxonMobil. Zafiro is a mature and complex asset, but still holds significant potential and upside. So, two questions for you to start with. How did the handover process unfold? And the second one is what comes next to Block B and specifically to Zafiro?
Okay, thank you. Zafiro, as you say, is a material vessel. The first thing we were doing was the transition between all state to personnel Zafiro, G petrol. After that, we do that, the petrol start working hardly to maintain the level of production that Exxon left and start doing job to increase or maintain that production. To do that, I think we have a lot of things to do. Starting by the survey the subsea,
Mm-hmm.
how the state of the production state facility. And after that, do we have to connect the well that was disconnected with the problem we had in the vessel. We have to increase how we would have to increase the production. I think what we will do after. I think the second one. Second, we think that after the do everything we have to do to connect the well. If we connect the well, we would be increasing the production. To increase this production too, we will have to drill infill wells to increase production too, and then look around the field of Sapiro area when the oil is still accumulated there to increase the production too, because we will have to drill well upside the Sapiro. So we will have first connect the well. Secondly, to drill infill well. And the third thing is all the area where we have still oil there. I think this program, Zafiro, the area would increase production from now to maybe, I don't know, 50 years or 40 years to 20 years. But Zafiro's petrol is working hardly to achieve that objective.
Thank you very much. I know the commitment I've been sharing with some of your colleagues in Petrol, and it's good to know that you have a plan in place, and it looks very comprehensive. Thank you very much, Vicente. After ExxonMobil exited Block B, some analysts were quick to predict that Equatorial Guinea was in terminal decline, that it wasn't attractive anymore for international investors. But Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and all the companies represented here today seems to be doubling down in the country, proving those analysts wrong. In this sense, Bernardo, I would like to ask you about Chevron's projects in EG, specifically, what do Chevron's EMP opportunities mean for Equatorial Guinea's production decline? And additionally, how would you assess the prospectivity of block EG6 and EG11, that the blocks you entered in 2024?
Thank you. First of all, good morning to all my fellow panelists. That's a very interesting question. As we speak, Equatorial Guinea remains the fifth, largest oil and hydrocarbons producer in sub-Saharan Africa. And I want to take the opportunity here, I believe the Minister Buru is here, to congratulate him. Something like this is only possible, with a very comprehensive and very robust, business environment. Want to start off with that. In terms of Chevron in Equatorial Guinea, our presence remains very strong. Obviously, after the acquisition of Noble Energy assets, Chevron, now operates established fields such as Senga and Aleng. And in the benefit of time, I'm going to go straight, to give you a little bit, a context of what we do in country. In terms of current production, as I said earlier, we are operating at Senga. On the other hand, as you well know, there is recently, last year we signed new PSCs for exploration blocks 6 and 11. The Allen monetization project, we achieved first gas, a few years back. So that's all ways in which we're contributing currently. Okay, and of course, as you well know, there are ongoing discussions, to get the Ascent gas monetization project on stream. In terms of the future, okay, what does future look like? Well, first of all, we believe in Equatorial Guinea. We have a strong commitment in the country. Just to give an example, we're a strong supporter and we contribute to the country's gas mega hub, concept.
Yep.
As I said earlier, we recently we signed, PSCs for exploration blocks 6 and 11. These are deep water, projects. And Jojo Yolanda is also part of that discussion as well. We're currently discussing, with the state, e.g. Cameroon, in ways in which we can bring Jojo Yolanda. This is a transboundary project to bring it on stream. There's several things we're doing in country to try to support the gas mega hub vision of the state. But let me say one thing, which is very important. For this to happen, okay, it's absolutely necessary to have a good business environment. A robust business environment that would attract investment in country. Investors such as Chevron, and this, I must admit that the government of EGA, as Minister Buru has said here today, is been contributing to that in terms of, significant changes, in terms of the tax law, in terms of the hydrocarbons law, which will attract investors such as Chevron and other companies as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you're right. I mean, plans are ambitious, but narrative are matching also the ambitions as well. Things are moving forward in Equatorial Guinea, and I would like to commend Mr. Oburu and his team for making this happen. It's not easy. If you compare what's happening in other countries, from execution, from reform to execution, is quite large winding path. Now passing on to you, Frederick, on the same vein, with the acquisition of Marathon Oil assets, how is ConocoPhillips integrating EG into its global LNG strategy? What are the opportunities does it see in the country? And how does EG now fit strategically with ConocoPhillips' global portfolio, particularly in terms of LNG supply, market access, and regional positioning? Thank you.
There's a lot in that question.
Yeah.
So I'll try to
I
answer that.
only have 10 seconds.
Yeah, so clearly ConocoPhillips' strategy is to grow its LNG business, build a resilient, diversified, dynamic LNG portfolio. That's one of the core pillars for our strategy. I think I'd like to remind the audience here that Punta Europa, as we call it, is a unique, integrated, world-class set of businesses and set of infrastructure that fits very well in our strategy. As my colleague Bernardo said, equally, ConocoPhillips believes that there's some opportunities on the upstream, and the upstream's opportunities are real. So therefore, that set of assets with combined with the potential growth of the upstream side is a perfect combination for an organization like ConocoPhillips to drive and look at all possible options to ensure that we maximize the entire capacity, not only of this asset, but also potentially if we expand it, as Bernardo mentioned, to neighborhood field, including neighborhood countries, you could have potential scalable solutions here in place. So in terms of growth and opportunities, as His Excellencies mentioned, we clearly looking currently at EG’27 and the Block 4. These are sort of a midterm options, but we're also looking at broadening our screening criteria, if you will, just to maximize the potentiality of this unique infrastructure. So I guess in summary, I will say that you get a world-class investment structure, you get a real potential upstream scenario, you put that together, and essentially all we need now is essentially to implement the policies that Minister Oburu mentioned before, and even going further. I think collectively, in my mind, it's time to show a bit more ambitions for the country.
Okay.
And ensuring we put all the policies in place to essentially accelerate all these potential developments. Essentially to put back, EG as a center of an African leader when it comes to the gas and LNG market.
Yeah, and the position is unique. I mean, they have exploration opportunities, mature fields, they have LNG, they have transponder fields, they have everything. They have all the elements
It's
are
a
there.
pretty unique setup in the entire continent. Apart from Angola and Nigeria, I don't see any equivalent in terms of onshore production.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Frederick. Let's now hear from the independents. So, Julian, passing on to you.
I'm going to answer your second question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So your question was around, how ConocoPhillips see that in the portfolio. So I've already answered the element around the asset. In terms of a portfolio setup, we have already some production in Asia, in Australia, in Qatar, and of course we have a series of commercial contracts we recently actually signed from the US. So you could see that EG is not only strategically positioned, but geographically unique position. Because what you see in the market right now is you have the traditional demand coming from Asia, but now you have a new factor, which is essentially driven by energy security coming from Europe. So if you put EG in the middle of the center of that portfolio, you can see that you have multiple supply, resupply, diversion, swap options in our portfolio. So this is also another element as to why when ConocoPhillips acquired this asset, we really essentially look at it on a hand-to-hand basis and say it's time now for us to really focus on upstream development.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer, right?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Julian. Trident has been very active on Block G, not only bringing an infill well online at the end of 2024, but also pioneering subsea integrity initiative. So my first question to you is, how are these efforts shaping the long-term performance and reliability of the Ceiba and Okuma fields?
Yes, as you mentioned, Block G is a very mature field now, so we are very focused to improve the reliability, to extend and to protect the assets for the long term. A very good example this year we have get the anniversary of the FPSO, 50 years, which is huge for FPSO already. I think it's one of the oldest in the world, but we are working at the moment to renew the class and extend by 15 years. So it's really a huge effort, very strong investment. Normally, this is something that is done in dry dock. We are doing it in parallel to not to stop the production of the field, maintaining the production of the field, and while we renew that. So we are very focused on improving the reliability, extending the life of the asset for two reasons. One is that because we still believe that Ceiba or Okume have a lot to deliver. Ceiba is 1 billion reserve. We have a quite low recovery factor, so we still think that we need to extend that there is still a lot to produce. The second point is that we are slightly unique, I will say, in AG because we are the only one located in the mainland. So our installation can be a hub for the future exploration, future development in the region, and it could clearly accelerate the first oil of any discovery in the region. So we yes, we strongly think that the success is to maintain asset, to create value both for us and the state, and in a steady way, ensuring steady production, reliability of the.
Excellent. That's the idea. Second question. Trident Energy specializes in mature field operations and rehabilitation. I think you are one of the best companies doing this. And Equatorial Guinea has a lot of opportunities on this space, as well as in exploration. So we see strong support for new exploration, as the minister mentioned today and during the launch of the 2026 EG licensing round on Monday. But in your view, should mature fields also benefit from targeted incentive? And if so, what kind of measures would you make to the biggest difference, unlocking the remaining potential?
It's a very good topic. There is many panels on that topic this week. So now, we think that mature field, most of the time, the development has been done. Initial development is a high capital consumer. And then managing mature field doesn't require so much capital. It's just maintaining what we have and taking fruit of the production. This is not the case. For example, what I was mentioning, the extending the life of FPSO, it's high capital demanding. I was mentioning the Ceiba. Ceiba, it's all subsea infrastructure. It has been developed 25, 30 years ago. Just to give you a rough idea, we know that all the subsea infrastructure is now obsolete. To replace it as it is, it's a $500 million investment. So we are at that point in AG. We are working on the Ceiba, what we call Ceiba redevelopment, because we still think that there is a huge potential on that. But it will require a massive investment, for sure. And how most of the PSC are structured is that there is big incentive at the beginning of the development because you make that effort in capital. Then I will say the operator, most of the operators leave the country. They have taken the fruit of those bonuses, I will say, in the PSC. And we recover PSC that are not necessarily with a very high incentive in incremental oil or whatsoever. But we still have huge investment to do. And for sure, I will say, finding a way to better balance when on the mature field an operator wants to redevelop, redo a huge investment, a way to have an incremental role, some benefits will help to get the investment. That's true. It can be on royalty. There is many ways to do. This week I have seen many initiatives from other countries in Africa that are addressing that very specific topic on that. It can be recovering it has been proposed by AG to recover the exploration cost on the production field and all of that. So it's very good initiative, and it is the full process. But I think something that is ongoing in AG, and I would like to thank the ministry for that, is that it's not only the incentive on PSC that is very important, it's also the global environment for an operator.
Yeah.
To get the investor saying, go ahead in a country, you need to have a steady legal frame. You need to have a reliable legal frame, a predictable one. It's the most important, I think it's a predictable one. Because you can assess the risk, the investor can assess the risk, and based on that, they can give the go-ahead. And I think the ongoing reform on the labor law, for example, it's a very good initiative, and it's participating to all of that. So I think it's a global system, global ecosystem that need to be put in place to boost. But yes, the potential in EG, we strongly at Trident Energy, we strongly believe in EG, and we think that there is a huge potential to unlock.
Thank you. Yeah, as you said, the issue of the sector has to be seen as holistically, right? It's not only the PSA, it's not everything that is connected to operations only. It's a labor law, is supply chain, all these elements.
Hi, Carlos. So, if you allow me,
Yes, sir.
regarding to the incentive that could be agreed with for this old fields. If you allow me, let's allow Mr. J to say something about it.
Jay, all yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Park. I'm with Park Energy Law. I've been honored by the ministry to assist them in the hydrocarbon law review. One of the components of that review is to provide for a more competitive regime, particularly focusing on certain aspects of the fiscal regime, with particular attention to royalty, where there's currently a minimum fixed flat 13% royalty. We're going to be looking at options to ensure that it is more of a progressive rather than regressive style arrangement, and that allows flexibility for varying costs, varying production rates, and varying prices of oil and gas. And I think the objective to be more competitive with other regimes in the region and globally.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Keeping on with the independent space, Oliver, I know Marin Energy has a lot of confidence in EG, and you are quite an expert. You've been involved in Equatorial Guinea for quite a while. Marin sees EG, and I quote from the latest Expro magazine, as an underexplored province, strategically located and adjacent to the world-class Niger Delta along the prolific West African margin. In fact, Marin has been playing an important role in Equatorial Guinea's gas monetization push. In particular, EG31 has attracted a lot of attention as one of the blocks with a lot of prospectivity potential. So my question for you is, could you share how Marin is contributing to the country's wider gas growth story, and what your outlook is for EG31 in terms of development opportunities and its place in EG evolving gas strategy?
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. I think, before we talk about specific opportunities, I think, it's important to say, how do we think about the country in general? So Marin operates production, development, exploration, several countries around the continent. And so we look at EG firstly in that context. And I think, the minister has just outlined a very important part of that, which is progress. But look, there's three things we look for. I think the first thing is the geology, the resource. Is a significant resource to develop. The second one is around the fiscals. So not just the terms, but is there stability? Is there predictability? Is it very investable? And the third one is around, what's the state of the industry today, right? Is there an infrastructure? Is there a supply chain? And when you look at EG, the first thing we say is, well, it's a tick for all three, right? Lots of resource, good engagement with the government, good fiscals, the ability to have conversations about future and unlocking things. Fantastic supply chain, you can get wells drilled. And as Frederick pointed out, there's a world-class LNG facility sitting in the country already. So EG ticks those boxes. in terms of our position then in the country, I think, you know, we've got two blocks there. We've got an EG-18, which is an outboard exploration play. But I think the one to your question is EG-31, and that is a gas opportunity which is really adjacent to the Alba field. It has discoveries on it, so there is gas on that block. Now, it's a very classic gas story in the sense that first discovery, I think, was in the 1960s, which I think before everybody here was born on this panel, I'm sure. But of course, at that time, there's no monetization, there's no pathway for that gas, right? Then Alba comes along, EG-LNG is built, fantastic facility, it's pretty full. So these things have sat there for quite a long time, right? So we come along and look at it and say, well, look, you can do some kind of 3D, you can do some modern technical work, and actually you can unlock quite a big resource here. Timing is then critical. When we look at timing, we say, well, okay, is there going to be space in EG-LNG? Is there going to be an expansion of EG-LNG? And I think, you know, we can talk afterwards about the space, but, you know, we think there is, right? And so we think there's a pathway, therefore, to monetize that gas. So the time is now. I think, what does that do for the country? And again, I'll go back to Frederick's point, is there are some midterm opportunities, the Chevron opportunities, which are big scale. Yeah. EG-31 is something which has big potential, but is close to the infrastructure, so could become a very classic short cycle, low capex, brownfield LNG expansion, right? So what is the job of that block, if you like, for the state? It is to try and unlock that resource quickly, try and get it through the facility, try and get that LNG into the market in a short number of years. That plays into, I think, as the minister outlined very clearly, the gas mega hub. There's a lot of gas and resource opportunities, but you know, you're always putting a jigsaw together, right? And you've got to say, what is the optimal way for the country and the companies to do that? And so for us, I think our role is to say, well, we have one position. There may be other positions that we grow into, but we've got to fit in that jigsaw. We've got to do it efficiently. We've got to do it quickly, and we're going to get that revenue flowing into the country. So look, we're super excited about that. And I think, you know, hopefully we'll make some progress soon on that. Excellent. In fact, we told the minister yesterday we would, and I know he's listening carefully. So we're doing our best.
Thank you, Oliver. And now a more general question, right? As an oil company and everybody here involved, I think you do benchmarking, right? To better allocate resources, to build a strong portfolio, right? You do that exercise quite often. So how do you see the country's competitiveness today compared to other jurisdictions? And why should international oil and gas companies consider it as a destination for investments?
Yeah, look, I think it's a great topical question because here, my voice, I'm originally from the UK. And so if you go back 10 years, people would say, well, that's a good, stable country with upstream industry. It's big. Today, you can't invest in it because you're not allowed, right? So the tables have turned quickly here, right? So what we look at is to say, well, actually, what I want to do is go to a country where the industry is supported and welcome. So we produce in Nigeria, and, you know, fantastic reforms in Nigeria, fantastic progress. You can really do business there, right? We're welcome, if I put it that way. You look at EG, and the things I outlined at the start are all true: resource, fiscal stability, infrastructure. But more widely, it's welcome. You can have conversations. So we, as a company, we met with the ministry yesterday, and we had a great conversation about how do we unlock the resource. So, you know, you can have a real conversation, and therefore you may not agree on everything, but you can get a pathway to unlock it and make progress. So I think for EG, one of the most fantastic things is it's approachable. You can engage with G-Patrol, you can engage with the ministry, you can engage with Sonagas, and you can get things done, right? So smaller company like us, you know, we like to move fast, and it's a place where we can move fast. And again, it has all the underlying things that you need: resource, fiscal stability, infrastructure. Right?
Excellent. So it's a destination for investments. Now, on to you, Fidel. How are you? Following the non-commercial results at Aken Deep well in 2024, what's Kosmos' updated exploration or development strategy in EG over the short to medium term?
Thank you very much, Carlos. This is a great question, and very happy to be with you today to kind of share with you what we were able to learn out of drilling the Aken Deep well. So we had a joint drilling campaign back in 2024 with our partner Trident, and the target was tap first, what we call infill program. We finished with the 2 infill wells, which we obtained successful results. And then after the infill program, we spotted the drilling rig at the exploration block, which is Akeng Deep or S6. Yes, as you said, the discovery that we made was not commercial because the threshold that we had for this opportunity, the volumes were not enough to kind of classify this as a discovery. But we took some positive stuff out of this drilling because, we gathered a lot of information which can be used for future drilling programs. As you know, we continue to explore the Rio Muni Basin. I just want to share with you as well the fact that the Akeng Deep was a structure that lays on the Albion. So Albion is a formation that is really very deep. The Ceiba and Okume and those fields that we have in the Rio Muni, they are producing from, Campanian, Asinomanian. So when we processed the seismic data back in 2018-19, we came up with a robust structure, which is under the Albion zone. And then just Akeng Deep by itself, it holds around 180 million barrels of oil and risk. So the idea of Cosmos and, of course, the partners, Petrol, Trident, and Panoro was, we know very well the companion, how it works. And this time we wanted to hit something really, really big and to kind of make difference and kind of change the dynamic of the discovery history. So that was the main driver that we wanted to untap that Albion structure. We have to highlight the fact that in Brazil, cause this kind of a structure is working and is being produced. So we wanted to test that structure and make sure that it works for Equatorial Guinea. Unfortunately, it didn't work, but the information that we acquire from this drilling campaign is really, really going to help us for maturing future opportunities that we have to drill in the Rio Muni Basin. So that is all about Akeng Deep. We do have a number of other opportunities as far as exploration. We participate together with Kosmos Energy on a block south east of Ceiba, which is revealing some good prospectiveness. So, we're going to leverage around the technology that we have today. The geo AI is kind of making an added value, which is we're using the seismic data incorporated into AI, and it's helping us to process the data really quick and kind of get clarity on the sounds that we've been receiving through the traditional method. So we're going to be emphasizing our efforts to kind of mature those opportunities that we see out of EGO1. And then we do have at-board licenses, AG24, which is far away from the existing infrastructure. So we see high prospectivity around this block, and it's important to highlight the fact that over the cross border in Sao Tome, we do have exploration licenses, and it's also important to kind of share with the audience today that Shell is drilling actually a well that is called Falcao, and they are actually starting to drill that well. That well is really, really going to help us to kind of de-risk the outboard block EG24. So hopefully that when they finish the Falcao well, we get a successful results, and that is going to actually help us to kind of bring in partners into EG24. EG24 is a highly deep water system, and we needed to kind of have a partner to kind of untap that a particular offshore license.
Excellent. That's the idea of Explorer, right? Keep enhancing processes, data, and keep trying. And now that you mentioned Sao Tome, I think Alvaro Silva, the regulator, I think is in the audience. Good luck with that. Well, on Tuesday, during one of the opening ceremony panels, Cosmos CEO Andy Inglis said that the countries that will win to attract capital are the ones that move faster. I completely agree. There's often, as I said before, a long and winding road between reforms and executing them. So, what's your take on this in the Equatorial Guinea context?
I think, Carlos, this is an interesting question. And, our CEO is a very pragmatic individual. And the fact that you are able to execute a project in a limited time, it gives you ample margin for your benefits. And when it comes to the context of Equatorial Guinea, I think Equatorial Guinea is ahead of this race because what it takes for us to kind of make a decision in a certain business environment is you ask several questions. Normally, a standard way to go for opportunity, you would ask yourself, is the business environment okay? So much of the time, the business environment is going to be okay in terms of, fiscal terms. And then the second question that you ask yourself is, is there a legal stability that you can predict how you're going to be able to get returns out of the investment? And when you ask this question into Equatorial Guinea context, you say yes, because it's a mature country. They've been able to demonstrate that you can execute the project in timely basis, and we don't see many cases where arbitration or things like that would scare the investment. I think when it comes to Cosmos, there are two other different elements that we take into consideration when we have to make a decision. One has to do with, the transparency and the cohesive that you have among the partnership. So Hepetrol, our GOA partners, ministry has been really, really, really supportive when it comes to, moving together. Because actually, if you don't have a partnership, there's no business that you can really get. And the fourth element that we really take into consideration, which goes along with the philosophy that our CEO highlighted, is the fact that, when you get into a country, that country has to have what we call urgency to get action done.
Yes.
So when you have a country that is eager to get executed things, those are the countries that Andy was mentioning that they're going to win because this is a competition. You have $1 to invest. You need to kind of have, the two elements that I mentioned, plus the two that, is the model of Cosmos. Once you have that, you're going to compete for investment, international investment. So I do have two examples that I can share with you based on EG being on the competition, on the race on that. So the drilling campaign that we executed in 2024, it was a challenging one. We needed to kind of execute it in timely manner on budget and two different operators targeting multiple wells program. So we had to come together and design a joint drilling campaign. That was not something very common. So ministry was able to sit with us in the table and kind of get into us to execute this program very easily. And the other one that I can mention is, of course, with our partner Trident, we were able to kind of secure the extension of the license of of Block G, which was, a major milestone for us. So ministry very switched on in understanding the sensitiveness of the industry and kind of making sure that we keep the investment going. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think, Carlos, if you allow me,
Sir, please.
like to add a little bit on that. It is very clear that these days we are very good at communicating with the companies. There is a very intense interaction with the oil companies. And we can see clear results when it comes to the reforms of the different laws. I have to say that on the hydrocarbon law, the draft was actually shared, with the oil and gas companies, and they did their contributions, right? And same thing just happened with the reform of the labor law. The participation of the oil companies was very intensive. I have to say that the reform of this law was actually caused because of the complaints and situations that the oil companies were going through, right? And so there is no doubt about the interaction with the companies. Every year we have a gathering in New York. Most of the ideas that helps the interaction with them come out of that interaction that we have every year in New York. And this is where the reform of the tax law even came from. We reformed the tax law because of the oil and gas company. So communication is great. The partnership is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That's the most important thing, a communication, a line, open, transparent line of communication between operators and the government. Local services companies also play a big role to make things happening in EG. In this sense, I'd like to hear from you, Alfredo, next to me. So Equatorial Guinea is a mature country in terms to oil and gas, right? It's been producing oil for 25 years, resulting in aging infrastructure, as Julian mentioned. Questions for you. What innovative solution exists to extend the life of aging oil and gas assets? Can you provide some example from Alduco, your company? Additionally, how has, and this is very important, local content been applied in these processes?
Okay, I'll start by thanking you for the question and to be among this distinguished panel. Yes, as Julian said, he talked about the mature field, and mature field comes with mature assets, or we call it aging assets, like the FPSO. So for example, FPSO in a lot of cases used to be a ship that has been converted into an FPSO. And then because of discoveries or new technologies, the oil companies are producing oil for longer periods. So what has happened? Maybe a platform was designed with a lifespan of 25 years, but after 25 years, they're still producing oil and gas. So what do they need to do? They need to extend the life of the asset. Now, the challenge comes, especially when it's offshore, is a lot of these assets, platforms, FPSOs, have what we call cathodic protection. And these systems were put on these structures before they were submerged or before they were put in the sea. So when they come to the end of the design lifespan of this protective systems, which we called anodes, or for the structure, the problem is you cannot have a structure that is submerged without protection. But now the challenge is, since the structure is submerged, the challenge is getting to put these anodes again on the structure. And when we're talking about old structures, we're talking about some of these solutions, some of them weigh up to 500 kilograms. So you can imagine you have an old structure already, and then you're going to put 500 kilograms, several 500 kilograms to protect the structure. So there's innovative solutions, retrofit solutions. Basically, we've worked on, especially on the Sage Sembe with our partners. These innovative solutions are basically engineered, and you basically go to the platform, you drop it on the sea alongside, and you connect it to the structure. And We've been able to do that, and in the case of Seja Benja, there's a life extension of 20 years, another 20 years. So what are the advantages of this? Because with the traditional way, there's underwater, there's diving, divers, underwater welding, and as I said, the excess weight on these structures, which is not very good for an old structure. And then there's the cost, because the vessels that you use to do this work cost a lot of money. You might need a vessel with the traditional way for weeks, but with the solutions we have, you come in 2-3 days, pam, 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 in and out. Advantage, you don't spend so much on vessels. The structure, the design is dropped on the seabed next to the structure of the platform, so you're not putting any additional weight on the structure. And we can design from anything from 5 to 20 years. So those are the advantages. Now, when you talk about the local content aspect of it, we have our engineers. We've worked with our partners in Houston, involved from the design phase, and then to the installation as well, our local guys, technicians. And also we've had, in some cases, certain parts fabricated locally. So that's where, our involvement has been. And I'll be coming to see Julian again because I've just found out that you have this Saber redevelopment project. So you're coming to talk to him again, see how we can participate in that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alfredo. And you gave us a you gave us a good summary of, and we tend to forget how complex are these projects from the technical side. That's a good summary, and to remind people that is more about signing a contract. It's just going into the field. Now, we've heard from the operators about upstream opportunities and challenges. But of course, none of these projects will move forward without financing. Equatorial Guinea has made clear that unlocking capital is central to turn reforms into projects. In that context, Afreximbank has taken on a major role. So let me turn to you, Benoit. In July this year, Afreximbank was appointed financial advisor to raise capital for the $4.5 billion EG’27 LNG project. Still in very early days, but it's clearly a landmark project, an opportunity. Could you walk us through what the project entails in terms of design and capacity, and more importantly, what Afreximbank's mandate will involve in helping bring it to life? Benoit?
Thank you very much, Carlos, and good afternoon to everyone. Happy to be here. I think maybe I will speak more to the mandate and financing aspects of it.
Okay.
But before that, I want to join my fellow panelists and acknowledge and appreciate the work that has been done in Equatorial Guinea by the government and the people in terms of enhancing just the operating, the legal framework, in terms of building infrastructure, taking up the reforms that were needed, and in terms of accessibility. And I say that when we're having some of these conversations, they almost look like cabinet meetings. You have a lot of ministers who are there with their technical teams, they're involved. They ask for meetings on public holidays. So there's really been an energy and a drive to the point that was made earlier. Now, regarding EG’27, as you know, Afreximbank prides itself to be the Trade Finance Bank of Africa, and our mandate is to support the growth of our member states through trade. And the current strategy of the bank has some pillars. One of them is leadership in global trade, and the other one is intra-African trade and export development. So if you take those pillars, which are strategy of the bank, and you put them on EG’27, you see that there's a perfect alignment between what that project represents and what the bank is trying to do. Equatorial Guinea is trying to unlock monetize resources that are there that are proven 3.8 billion cubic feet of gas. They are trying to raise capital at a large scale to do so, 4.5 billion, and then thereby killing the myth that a lot of Africans have been told, which is we do not have the finances to fund our development. And the bank, as of course, is very keen to support Equatorial Guinea as a member state, an important member state, is very keen on this project, which has the potential to establish value chains within the country, in the region, and to really position Equatorial Guinea as an energy champion on the global stage. And the bank has capacity. If you look at some of the mandates that our advisory and market team has obtained over the recent period, we successfully completed a 3.3 billion pre-export financing for the government and of Nigeria and the NNPC, 3.3 billion. That was the accordion portion of it was closed in June last year. We currently are mandated to raise 2.6 billion for Amufet in Angola on a fertilizer project. So this is a mandate that is ongoing. So truly, there is capacity, there is alignment between the economic strategy of the government of Equatorial Guinea and the mandate of the bank. And we are going to, in our capacity as advisors, take this deal to the market, bring in the wide base of investors that we have gathered over the years, whether in Africa, whether in the Middle East, whether in Europe or Latin America, and make sure that this transformative project matures and happens for the country, the region, and the continent.
Thank you, Benoit. And congratulations. I know you have been deeply involved in this project, particularly to you and to your team. So continuing with the issue of financing, but from a different type of scale, and I would like to hear from a local financial institution, and particularly from you, Nuria. And my question for you is the following: how is Banje leveraging its international relations and financial stability to help de-risk projects and provide assurance to foreign direct investors, encouraging them to commit capital to the next round of exploration of Equatorial Guinea 2026?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you, Carlos. It's an honor to be among these great panelists. First, I will tell you that we have a very great international relationships. Bange works with a network of correspondent banks, multilateral development banks, export-import credit institutions, with which we work together to mitigate the risk and find tools to be able to provide enhanced credit financing. We are a bank that's quite solid. We are the largest bank in Equatorial Guinea, and we are willing and ready to work with the international, with the ICOs and the NCOs. So we are a young bank. We have competitive individuals. We do a very good due diligence. We have great partners such as Afrexim Bank, who work with us to be able to meet the needs of our clients.
Excellent. Thank you, Nuria. And we just heard about operations from the operators. We just heard that financing is critical to turning projects into reality, but capital operators alone are not enough to navigate local dynamics. Building partnerships, ensuring projects align with national priorities are equally essential. That's where advisory firms like Grupo Memba and Blackstone EG come in, helping international investors understand the landscape and build the right connections. So let me turn now to our colleagues from the advisory side, and particularly to you, Paul. In light of Grupo Memba's commitment to enhancing local content, what targeted strategies and partnership are you implementing to empower local service companies in Equatorial Guinea?
Yeah. Thank you, Carlos, and thank you for the organizers to inviting us here. First, I want to start talking about local content because most people, when you start talking about local partners and local contents, they think we started in Africa. The local content started in the early 1970s, late 1960s in Norway. And when they were talking about that in that part of the world, nobody was questioning why is local content. And local content in Africa is not just we asking for companies, the IOCs or the international services companies, to give us free ride because we are qualified. We have the know-how. Probably what is missing from our side is the capital. For example, for Equatorial Guinea, the laws are in place. And now what the part what is missing is for the IOCs and the international service company to match what is or to do what the law is saying. For us to attract investors, for example, in this case, we're talking about Equatorial Guinea, where we can advise to the IOC to enhance the local content in Equatorial Guinea is for them to trust us and partner with the local companies. So the local companies in Equatorial Guinea, they're qualified to provide these services. And we will also advise our clients to set up the right JV in Equatorial Guinea. For example, in 2001, I started my first JV in Equatorial Guinea with G-Petrol. And then in 2011, I started a JV company with, back then it was General Electric, a company called GEMSI in Equatorial Guinea. So we advise them that not just having a local partner is enough. You have to fulfill and meet all the requirements where the governments have in place. Set up the right company, the right JV company, and distribute the ownership properly. For example, in Equatorial Guinea, the law say 35% minimum have to be local. So, and when you distribute, you created the JV company and distribute all the requirement shares as it's supposed to be, you also have to start talking about responsibilities. The local companies, we're not just wanting to be passive local partners. Some of them, they can invest in their size, the size of the capital, they can invest some capital, and the other, they can provide the services. It could be technical services, logistic, it could be marketing, or government relationship. So then we're hoping sometimes the IOCs, they'll ask, or the service company, what is our take? How are you going to be mitigating the risk? There's several ways to mitigate the risk because once you have a local partner, that local partner, because of the policy, you may have some credits from the ministry because you fulfill the requirements where the government is asking that you have to have a local partner. And then you have to have a local legal company. We will assist you to identify which legal companies you need to hire. You need to hire also an accountant because if you're working with PwC in New York or in Houston, it's not the same. We're not saying you should not be working with those companies where you have been working with in outside Equatorial Guinea. But there are some local companies in Equatorial Guinea where they know better the Equatorial Guinean law than those international law firms. So you can do what in the US they used to do, or they're still doing, which is like matchmaking. You bring the local company and put them together with the international company where you have been working so they can work together and try to provide the same quality of work where you're looking for. So I think the IOCs and the international service company, they should not be scared when people start talking about hiring a local company because the local content law did not start in Africa. Local content law started a long time ago in 1970 in Norway. And back then, nobody complained why local content it was implemented in Norway.
Thank you, Paulo, for thank you for such comprehensive and compelling explanation. I think you're right. It's not about local content. It's about local content done well. Teresa, now turning it to you. Blackstone EG and Partner is pioneering the concept of investment lobbying in Equatorial Guinea. Could you share your long-term vision for how this model can reshape investor confidence and attract sustainable capital to the country, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Carlos, for the question, and thank you for the organizer for inviting us to this interesting session. Actually, at Blackstone, we have it quite clear. We are a tool for the government and for the investors, because as an investment lobbying firm, our objective is to connect the investors with the business opportunities that we have in the country. But to do so, we need to make sure that we have in place structured channels where both the companies, the investors and the governments can feel comfortable doing business. And that's basically why we are supporting the government. I think the minister said that earlier, the efforts that the government is doing by approaching the companies that are operating in the country to understand their needs so that they can have an alignment. So I think it's quite important that we have this kind of environments where the capital can feel protected, where the rules are clear, and above all, where both the government and the investors can feel like their commitments, because there's commitments on both sides, that their commitments are actually translated into real projects. I think that it's really important that we have this alignment between the government and investors, because it's the only way we can not only attract the investment, sustainable investment in the country, but also we can keep it and we can even make it grow. Because the idea here is not to having investors coming once and leave the country. We want them to come to find a trustable environment for them to succeed, because at the end of the day, their experience will encourage others to come to the country and invest, and I think that is the way to have a positive legacy in the country.
Excellent, thank you, Teresa. The work you're doing is so important for ecosystem in the energy ecosystem in Equatorial Guinea. So with that, I want to thank all our panelists for their insights and to the audience for your attention. Equatorial Guinea clearly has big opportunities and great ambitions, and today's discussion underscores how much momentum there is to move the sector forward. Finally, special thank you to Minister Antonio Buruondo, not only for being here and opening the panel, for expanding on some of the panelists' comments. Your presence underscores the importance of this dialogue and the government's commitment to advancing the sector. So thanks everyone. Muchas gracias a todos. Muchas gracias por estar aquí, and thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.